House of Decline. I used to do the ad reads at the beginning of the show, but I've grown tired of doing the ad reads, so I'm just going to go right into it. We got a champion of cartoons, internet cartoon champion. He's returning. He was previously on a bonus episode, but now we're having him for a solo interview or just talk. Not really an interview. You know, a chat, a casual chat. A nice chat between friends. It's Harris, a.k.a. Beetle Moses.
How
you doing?
So much for having me, dude. I'm doing great. Yeah, I'm really excited to. I know we kind of were going back and forth. Like my schedule was tight, so I'm glad that I kind of was able to come on for one of these. This is great. And dude, you know what? I kind of want to. I feel like I got to kick it off because I think I owe you a little bit of an apology.
Okay, what happened? What did you do?
Not for dodging your podcast invitations, but you know, I posted. I was kind of not ranting and raving, but I had like a little thread about like a week ago where I was kind of bitching about like art Twitter being a bunch of pussies, basically.
Okay.
And I happened to name you in your defense when I was talking about the commission that you posted that a lot of
the You Are Not Special committee. A
lot of people got upset about and we brought you onto Cold Cuts podcast. I think the day of or after that it turned into kind of like a fiasco. And I told you my opinion then, which hasn't changed, which is that I think it was a complete overreaction from Twitter, and I really couldn't even parse why people were giving you such a hard time about it. And I sort of, now that the dust has settled, right, nobody's talking about it anymore.
Nobody cares.
Nobody cares. It was sort of like the flavor of the week thing to hate on in that moment. And now that the dust has settled, I was kind of not bitching, but I was just talking about how like my Banksy this one.
The War Bad comic.
Comic.
Which is a very easy one to understand, which is that Banksy's shit is trite, which it is. It's fucking, it's trite as hell.
Very trite. And so I made a comic a while ago, which was making fun of Banksy, basically. It was at his expense, but it was, I would say, very light. I mean, it was light work. And it got a lot of attention, like positive attention, but it also got a lot of like negative attention from Banksy heads and
the Banksy heads that are out there.
Heads.
Who is a Banksy head?
It's a great question. And actually, I didn't. If you asked me, if you pressed me on it before I posted the comic, my actual opinions of Banksy, I would have been like, I don't know, like I wouldn't.
You know, he's fine, whatever. Some of it's accomplished. It looks cool some of the time. You know,
some of it looks cool.
Sometimes it's a good gag. I like the shredding gag. The shredding gag was funny.
I thought that was funny, and I think like back in high school when I first saw Banksy, I was like, oh, this is cool. I had no familiarity with like graffiti culture, which is it's a very lush culture, for lack of a better word. I mean, there's a lot of crazy graffiti artists that are way more visually, I think, interesting or provocative than Banksy. But at the time, I didn't know about that. It's sort of just like baby's first like street artist, basically.
But they're like Facebook memes that your friend sends you where somebody is addicted to their phone and, you know, they're crushing up their phone and snorting their phone.
It's literally that, like, you know, that Letterboxd review of that Moby movie.
I love that. I think that's a Rocky review. It's one of the funniest pieces of film criticism of all time. I watched that video because of it too. And it really is Are You Lost in the World Like Me by Moby. It features this 1920s rubber hose style cartoon sad child, and everyone's addicted to their goddamn phones, and he's just trying to get someone to notice him.
I know,
but everyone's addicted to their goddamn phones, and then a girl commits suicide, and they're all filming it on their goddamn phone, and it's like, I want to get the review right. I want to get the exact phrasing.
It's so funny.
When I first read that shit, it was one of the funniest things I'll ever
wait for you to pull it up because I don't want to butcher it, but it is crazy that those type of videos, not even that one, I mean, it's one of a million, and it's as old as smartphones itself. I mean, I think a week after the first iPhone was released, the first probably like media criticizing smartphones came out, and we've been here now, we're like 20 years out. And
it's the same criticism over and over again, which is true. You know, it is atomizing us, and we are becoming jerks because of it, but it's just so boring to hear the same that expressed over and over and over again.
It's very trite.
At least find a new angle on it, a new way to figure out how to like express the fact that we're all separating from each other because of technology. terminology instead of this very very sentimental and pat.
No,
and like just the fact that it stars a sad-eyed child, it's like the same thing as that George Alexopoulos guy where his comics feature a sad-eyed child. It's like, why are you infantilizing yourself? Why are you
Yeah, that's a whole other story. Were you able to pull up that review? Did you find it?
Yes, the review is so funny. It is a Rocky, I think he's at Viperwave on Twitter. And it goes, my teacher showed us this in class once and got so mad when a kid called it gay, he had to go outside and calm down.
That is like the perfect image. That's a perfect image of the Banksy heads that are in my quote tweets, right? Like these guys that are just like, you know, they get so worked up at the idea of an artist criticizing that something that they think is earnest, right, is sincere, which, like, the truth is, I don't really believe that any of Banksy's or even that Moby thing, none of that is made in earnest. It's you can see right through it, because, or if it is made in earnest, it's done really badly. It's really hard to connect.
Yeah. Well, usually in art, like, even if you're doing your, like, even if we're doing our dumb comics, you're really thinking about how am I going to be as idiosyncratic as possible? How am I going to create something sort of at once that is both accessible to people but also unique to me, totally
honest.
Honest to myself, honest to my personality. And there is like a sort of hitting the target quality with Banksy stuff, or I guess it wasn't at the time, because we forget how old that Banksy shit is, but like by like 2005 standards, that shit was mind-blowing. You know, that's when everyone was watching 24 and we were getting our Banksy shoved into our system.
I think the idea, I mean, the idea now, it seems antiquated, but the idea was novel at the time of seeing something labeled as art, but it was specifically, it wouldn't just be the picture of the art, right? It wouldn't just be this that you would see. You would see this, but it would be painted on like a broken rubble wall. You know what I mean? In like a war zone.
Oh, right? Destruction in it. Yay.
Yeah, literally that. And so I think when people first see that, it's a very provocative image, but it's so tired and trite. And I think like the fact that Banksy is just like a gazillionaire because of that type of work, I think it's like, it's a very easy to criticize. Like,
easy target. Silly. No problem
easy
there.
Target.
But I'll target Banksy. I think also the fact that the reason why it becomes so popular is it has the same quality as like Rupi Kaur poetry, who I talked about on the show as well, where it's like, I get why it's popular, because it's very easy to understand. Any dum-dum can understand Rioter with Flowers.
Yes.
It's like you don't have to do the extra work. Like if something is a little more abstract, you know, I could see these people like looking at a Basquiat painting and going, what?
Yes.
I could see them looking at Irony of Negro Policemen and like, which is literally written on the canvas, and being what is this about? I don't understand what this is about.
I mean, dude, I fear so much about, and really not even to sound, you know, boomer / doomer about it, but I fear a lot about like media literacy with like, I mean, people our age and younger, media literacy is like at probably like 100-year low right now, and I think it does have to do with what Moby is saying. I think a lot of it is because we're consuming like quick and easy media, but I fear people like, you know, in 5 years, I guarantee there's going to be, if not sooner, there's going to be a post about R. Crumb and how offensive and damning and terrible R. Crumb is, and that's going to be another example of the same shit, where it's just like, guys, you got to have a little bit of media literacy. You cannot completely discredit a man's body of work, which is very influential and very good, just because there are some no emotions that are involved with it. You know what I mean?
Well, people were writing about like the problems with R. Crumb like way back, and you know, people were complaining about R. Crumb in the 70s. You know,
absolutely. And so anyway, the reason I got on this is because I made a post where that somebody had reposted the Banksy comic again, and they had quote tweeted. It was like a photo that somebody posted that was another typical like war bad, like look how powerful this image is, something like that. And they quote tweeted it with my comic, which was a funny use of the comic. And so then I retweeted it because it was funny, and it did numbers all over again, which meant that it wheeled in another round
Banksy
of
heads,
people, the Banksy heads, to criticize it. So then I was kind of like just expressing on my Twitter, like it wasn't out of anger, it was just out of like, I don't know what you call this, but it's just that like, you are so stupid, like you are so dumb, like just being like, none of you guys changed my mind, like this comic is still funny, it's clearly still a banger, and you know what I mean, and like you gotta just let it go.
You feel like the big boomer comedians. You feel like Opie and Anthony. What, you can't take a joke all of a sudden?
People
can't take a fucking joke. What are you, so sensitive? You don't understand that it's fine to like Banksy, you idiots. You idiots, it's fine to like Banksy. You can't. There's very mild criticism of the thing you like.
Exactly. But it's like, and sometimes like I can take criticism. Like if somebody does come to me in earnest and say that they don't like something that I drew or that it's offensive, if I'm open-minded to, I'll go back and apologize. But all I can say is that so far, any criticisms that I've received on the comics that I've drawn so far have, I think, been completely misplaced. And so anyway, in that thread, like one of the I did say, like, oh, while I'm airing it out, House of Decline did nothing wrong when he posted the you're not special commission, and basically just saying like, art Twitter loves to bitch and moan and whine about artists not getting paid for their work, and then my friend got commissioned for some work, and he decided to post it to the internet, and all of art Twitter and all of Twitter had to shut down to bitch and moan about that, which is very fucking annoying, and so that's what I did. I didn't tag you in it because I didn't want to fucking, I didn't want to send people back over to you just in case people took it the wrong way. But then I was talking about it, or we were talking about it on Cold Cuts, and Zach was kind of like, House probably wasn't too happy that you posted that. I don't know. I was like, what do you mean? And he was like, well, he probably doesn't want it like dredged up again, and all that, which I think is probably true.
It's fine for it to dredge up. I am sorry. Thank you for apologies, but there's no need for apologies. I think it was very fucked up. Like for 1 or 2 days, it was like, oh my God, is this it? Am I, is this, is it like this forever? And then like after it, like I could immediately see how it's the funniest thing ever. Because, the other thing too is like, I didn't lose my shit. I could have doubled down and like lost my shit, which is what everyone wants to see. And then you become a legend. Then you become Bean Dad, But that didn't happen. So everyone just forgot about it within a week. And,
I think actually there was a wave of people because you did put out sort of like an apology that was halfway dismissive, like kind of just being like, this is just like, I hope that you guys don't take this seriously. If I don't want to put words in your mouth, but it was
it's funny. Like it escaped my audience, and like the other reason why I think we're talking about why media literacy is dead, or why it's harder to come by a certain media literacy, is because I think it's because there's so much entertainment now. Like there's like, because of independent people like us, because it's easier to make stuff than it ever has been before. Yeah. Conversely, while you're getting paid less than you ever have been before.
Exactly. Yeah.
But there's just this huge amount of entertainment, and there's enough of it such that there's going to be a very sizable subsection that will cater to your specific tastes. And you could spend your entire life in that world, in that entire subsection of media that caters to your tastes, where you only have to understand that. And if you somehow get exposed to something outside of that small bubble of media, then it's very difficult for you to parse, which is why, I think we're all guilty of that. I'm not singling out the Zoomers here or anything.
No. I mean, dude, I got this happened a few months ago. Now it's like old news. It doesn't even matter. But this one, I posted some comic that it was not one of my best. It was just like a silly one that was like the Magic School Bus was in Doom, like the video game Doom. And it was something like that. And so like, it was just like a simple, goofy punchline or whatever. And I got like a comment from somebody that, and it's always, you get a bunch of nice comments. You get a bunch of people that are like being super supportive and, LMFAO, this is so good. You know what I mean? And then you get one comment, and it was just some guy who was not he didn't look like a Zoomer to me. He looked like he was probably like my age, and he was like, "What's the joke here? You know, I don't get what's funny about this." And so I clicked on his profile, and he had also quote tweeted the comic and was just like, this is the type of lazy, stupid comic that like webcomic artists are so fucking lame, you know, like all they do is blah blah blah, like
it went on a big rant, a big moralistic rant about the state of webcomics.
And by the way, and just because it's slightly important to the point that I'm about to make, this dude was a Marvel fanboy, all right? He was really into Marvel, which honestly, like I don't hate Marvel movies the way a lot of people do. I don't hate Marvel movies, but I saw that and immediately going through my head, I'm like, dude, I posted this online for free. You did not pay me to see this. Nobody paid me to see this. I just put it online, and if you don't like it, you could just keep scrolling. You know what I mean? Meanwhile, you're jerking off some multi-billion-dollar media organization that's been churning out crap for at least 5 years now.
Mm-hmm.
And I was kind of just, and so I ended up calling him out on I ended up calling him out.
You used your clout. You used your
my clout.
Sometimes you want to do that. Sometimes you want to bring the meteor down on them or vaporize them like Dr. Manhattan.
Yes. In this particular case, I needed to do that. It was just a low-hanging fruit. And I think, well, here's the thing is like, anyway, the long and short of it is that guy deleted his account. But you know, I think it's interesting because I think you and I, and like Yola Swag Studios, for example, another webcomic artist, like we all occupy a similar space of the internet, but I think we navigate it differently. And there's no right answer, but like I think you have an interesting tactic of like trying to keep things even keel, right? You don't want to like upset the audience in a way that's unnecessary.
Well, that's just for me. You know, some people thrive off of conflict, but anytime I'm in
Swag Studio route, I think that's like his brand is he likes to like rabble rouse, basically.
But yeah, I'm such a people pleaser. I'm such a goddamn people pleaser. I'm like sick if I if I think
like
anyone
that too.
That shit. Okay, one of the funniest things, you know, it's not funny to the person who ever posted this. I posted a comic about loss, you know, making fun of the loss meme. Sure, that's because on every comic I get every comic I post, someone inevitably is like, "Is this loss?"
This loss,
yeah. And so I did a comic about the loss comic. Meta in the Lost comic, it's the Lost comic, but if the characters were replaced with the Lost comic.
Yes.
So, and you know, everyone thought it was fun. And then there's this one guy who's like, my wife had a miscarriage and it was one of the most traumatic things for both of us. And like six long tweet rant about how traumatizing the Lost comic. And you know, nothing against this guy. I'm sure you're correct. Yeah, I'm sure it is bad for you to see this concept. I did feel bad about it. I didn't like comment on it. I didn't want to call him out. But it's just funny when you put something out there and you're like, is this funny? Is this funny to you? And someone was like, this reminds me of my miscarriage. And you're like,
literally. No, I know, no. I like not my intent. And I have actually, I mean, I have personally been a little bit on a wave of like, some people have like, I mean, lightheartedly pointed this out that I've been a little bit on a wave of like wholesome content. Like a lot of the drawings that I've been doing, this last month have just been like nicer, you know what I mean? And I don't know if it was really like a, what do you call it? Like, I don't know if it's necessarily a intentional like change. It's just kind of like where I'm at mentally is I kind of want to draw things that are a little bit like cozy or nice or have a happy ending. Yeah. And you know what? I still get it's not many, but I still get the same amount of loser hater remarks. Like people are going to instinctively say some rude shit. It's like the first instinct for a lot of people online. And like I even there was this just happened like 2 days ago. I swear to God, I was just looking at, I was on Instagram and something showed up in my promoted, and it was like an up and coming singer, like an artist. She had like 100,000 followers, like pretty big on Instagram. And I listened to the song that she posted. Her name's Lola Young. Shout out, I guess. Okay. She's like young British, and like had this really cool, unique sound and an amazing voice. So I immediately followed her. I was like, you know what? I don't usually like promoted shit, but you caught my attention. I really like your style. and I went to the comments to see what other people were saying. Dude, they were shitting on the girl, like hating. And I was just like, dude, we live in a society like that. I really had like a moment like that. Like, what the fuck is going on?
Are you lost in the world like me? Are you lost in the world?
I really
like
had a moment like that because I was like, who the fuck are any of you guys to be? And people like were dropping hater comments, and then that comment we get like thousands, 5,000 likes.
Oh yeah,
like,
I mean, I love it too. I mean, that's the other problem is I love doing that shit too,
Sure.
and I don't want to begrudge. That's the reason why I'm reticent to like take down the bullying comics, because it's like, no, I also want the latitude to bully. So I feel as if I let you do this to me, then I am morally okay to, you know, post the low tier god. Although no one posts the low tier god. Everyone, I guess it's Eric Andre now. Everyone posts the Eric Andre kill yourself meme.
Yes, I love that one.
Yeah.
Wait, just a question before I tell a quick story. Is this a Patreon? Is this public? Or
this is a free episode, so
episode.
you might want to get less spicy, maybe a little less spicy.
Maybe less spicy. It's just that there's. I was gonna like mention somebody that I know. I don't think they would hear this anyway, but
use a code name. Use a code.
I'll use a code name. It's just, okay, basically, you know, I'll keep it pretty broad. There is somebody that I know personally who makes music. They've been pursuing music for some time and hasn't really found success. And I think they're a very good person, but I do not think their music is very good, right? But I still follow them, and I'm like loosely supportive for the spectacle. But whenever they post something new, I'm kind of just like, dude, when are you gonna hang this up, man? This is just not you know, like I don't say it. I would never say something because I'm just not that guy. But it's time to hang it up. And so I saw something, and kind of privately, I was sort of just like joking about it with some other close friends. But when I went to the comments, this is the other side of it. I went to the comments of the post, and there was somebody who I didn't know, some random, that was shitting on it. And something inside me, because I knew the person, I wanted to respond to the hater and be like, how fucking dare you? Like, you need to, you know what I mean? It's like, I wanted to come to protect this person that I know, even though what the hater is saying is true. It's just like, it's more annoying when somebody just has to say some stupid shit,
you didn't even put in the work of knowing this person to know his music is shitty. You didn't even, you don't know the character, the depth behind the shitty music.
Exactly. Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, what are you gonna do? It's the way of the fucking internet. It's just people want to say mean things. I think people are frustrated in their own life. It's a way to blow off steam. For some reason it offers you. I mean, I used to do that, but it had less and less utility as I got older. I felt less and less of that rush of like saying something to a person. Also because like I was bad at it. Like I go Sephiroth mode instantly. Oh yeah.
Like I go, how dare you? I am a shiny golden god, and you shall oppress the will of the creator. You shall bow well down to the Nile of humbleness.
Exactly.
Saying anything.
The only way you can do it, it has to be a dunk, right? You can't just like read somebody out, right? Even though that's how it should be, you have to make it funny. There has to be a funny comeback, and it needs to be like a quick one-liner. You know what I mean? Otherwise, you're at risk of just engaging with them without shutting them down completely. You know what I mean? And so sometimes that's not always, I can't think of something right away, and you just got to ignore it. Like you got to just like let it go. Yeah.
Also, you just, I mean, the reason why the hater comments work is because you do put a lot of work into this, and it is fucked up to, see. So, as stupid as my comics are, I do put a lot of thought and effort into them.
I actually think you're the only person that says your comics are stupid, because I think people. I mean, also when I posted that little comment that I was just like, and by the way, House of Decline did nothing wrong, blah blah blah. All of the comment -1, there was only one that was like, nah, that comic was trash and it deserved to get shitted on. And I was like, literally like how dare you, like literally Sephiroth posting. But then I was like, no, you know what, you have to remember that 90% of the time it's like a really dumb 15-year-old kid on the other end of it. And it's just, you're not, if you respond, it's just not the right thing. But anyway, the other like 99% of the comments that were in response to what I was saying were actually other artists, other comic artists that were agreeing, you know what I mean, and also saying like, House is like, dude, House is a genius. House is the best comic artist on.
Oh, that's very nice.
Right
Thank
now.
You for coming on my show and praising me.
And I'm like, it's true. I mean, I think, but what you said is true. Is that comic, that commission just reached people that were outside of your audience. That was the problem. Is that it got, which also just seems like, I don't even know how that happened. Like how, I don't know.
Well, in such number, like I've seen people become the main character again, but my shit got 20,000 quote tweets. I have never seen anything come close to 20,000 quote tweets.
That's a lot.
You know? That's a crazy amount.
It is crazy. I think maybe that, like, my brother has pointed this out too, because I've talked about how, you know, like, even though I've been posting art online for some time, the comics are fairly recent, and that seems to be like the golden egg, right? That's all of a sudden what people are like interested in engaging with. And I think my brother had a good point, which is basically just that, like, that's kind of the point of comics, is that they actually, you're more inclined to engage with it because it's telling a little story or a joke, rather than, there's some amazing artists that just post fan art or paintings, you know what I mean? But there's no, you might like it, but there's no need to engage with it beyond that. But a comic actually might provoke a thought. And I think your commission did provoke a lot of
people, it definitely signaled that the culture has shifted drastically since 10 years ago in terms of like how willing people are to tolerate like being a nasty little asshole like we were in Gen X, and you know, and,
which is also funny you mention it, because the Cyanide and Happiness guys, for example, who I love, by the way, I've never actually like spoken to them, but like exchanged DMs with Chris and Rob, like just super
great
funny.
guys.
And I mean, that was also when I had first joined Twitter and was posting comics, getting the follows and or like retweets from those guys was so like,
I've made it, you know, this is these guys were, when I was in high school, these guys were gods to me, literally.
I mean, I swear to God, I think my friend may have shown me like Cyanide and Happiness when I was back in like the 6th grade. Like, I've known and been fans of them for so long, to actually feel like I occupy the same space as them online is just absolutely mind-boggling to think of. And they're just the nicest guys too.
They're just guys.
They're just guys. They're just really cool. But they also jumped on this webcomic thing before social media existed, right? That's why they were posting to Explosum and .net. And I think it's funny that part of their shtick, especially from what I remember, is a lot of their punchlines are really dark, like dark or unsettling or like depressing. They even do that. What is it, like Depressing Comics?
Depressing Comics Week,
like that. And like, or that's what it was. And I think it's funny that you're the commission. I know you didn't write it, but it's you know, the art and the idea.
I'm probably subconsciously very inspired by Cyanide and Happiness because the little guy looks like a little Chris Wilson character.
It does. It looks so much like it. And I think like it's interesting that those comics, those guys are super, you know, successful. Though it's probably like the fact that, you know, your mom and dad may be aware of a webcomic artist. Like, think about how big you have to be as a webcomic artist for like multiple generations of people to actually recognize that's how long they've been around, and that's how much reach they have. But the fact that it almost felt like when I saw the response, or even as we're talking about it now, the negative response that you got to that commission, like, it makes me wonder if those guys, Cyanide and Happiness, would have been able to like get off the ground with the style that made them famous today. You know?
I don't think that's I mean, even the reason why I think I found initial popularity was because there is like a weird positivity to my comics. There's like a weird optimism to them. Sure. Which is what I think, you know, that's also why Keith Stack there is like a weird, like, it's because he's writing a romance comic essentially.
It's true.
The point of it is that something good happens, you know, love is happening amidst these two freaks.
Yes, absolutely. I noticed he hasn't been, I mean, like obviously respect where it's due. I fucking love Keith Stack, but I noticed that he hasn't been posting like the happy lesbian couple comics as recently.
He's doing the Sonic comics recently. Whenever a Sonic game, he's doing. He also has like a big full time job.
A real job. Yeah, I know that's the actual thing, but it's funny that I feel. I mean, he was doing daily comics. Like when I joined the scene, he was posting every single day, which was like another one like coming up in the scene and being like, holy shit, man, I gotta if this guy's doing it every single day, I gotta post every single day. Like how the fuck can I, how can I expect to compete when I've got at the time you were posting like fucking 3 or 4 a day. Like your output during that era, like how long have you been on Twitter?
For a couple of years, 3 years about, 3 years. But only started posting the gay comics for like a year and a half ago.
Yeah, that period of time when I first joined, I think you were sitting around like 40,000 followers on Twitter, and you were putting your output. I was like, dude, how the fuck is this guy putting out this many comics? Like, and that really lit a fire under my ass. Like, I should be doing more.
I mean, that's like I'm a very big believer in quantity over quality. That's like my
when it comes to webcomics, it's kind of real. Yeah.
True. But I really do like that style of production. Have you ever heard of Tonetta?
No, I haven't.
Tonetta was this Toronto-based musician, this indie musician. He was like this 50-year-old gay guy, which is relevant because a lot of his songs are about gay sex. Pressure Zone is one of his biggest. Boys, get it past that pressure zone. Yeah. But, or like 81-inch prime ass is another one of his songs. He's great. He's a genius, and he has just got like thousands and thousands of songs. He just keeps producing like compulsively.
That's awesome.
Or the same appeal as Lil B, or like
I was thinking Viper. It sounds like Viper. Honestly.
Yeah.
He literally puts out like 2 or 3 new mixtapes a day. And a lot of them are on Spotify. Like if you go to Spotify, he's just churning them out. And I think a lot of it he's recycling old material or like remixing stuff. But it's like the dude doesn't quit. But he's like famous. It worked. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like a lot of people know him. Do you know the artist? Actually, I believe he's Canadian and also, internet. Do you know Songs to Wear Pants To? I think he goes by a different moniker.
I don't know Songs to Wear Pants. What is Songs to Wear Pants To?
I think he no longer goes by that moniker because he does some other internet shit. But my friend put me onto him. I swear to God, all the way back in like the 5th grade or 6th grade. Like it's old internet now. But he makes these really short, sometimes a minute or less songs that were like goofy, like silly songs. And I think even there was, I don't know if Patreon existed at the time, but I think there was something where somebody could commission him, like send me $10 and your idea and I'll write a song for it. And so he would put out these little like Weird Al, like funny songs, you know what I mean? But they would be like very short and very like Rafflecopter. You know what I mean? Like that era of the internet kind of. I Can Has Cheeseburger.
The Tobuscus, the rise of Tobuscus, and not the fall of Tobuscus.
Right around there. And I was with the friend, this friend of mine who happens to be the same friend that showed me Weird Al. I actually went to see Weird Al live with him, which I don't think I appreciated at the time because it was funny. He loved Weird Al when we were still in like middle school or even early high school, and which was so ahead of his time because I think Weird Al was like really big in like the 80s and 90s or something, like late 80s.
I was a huge Weird Al fan from all way. I listened to the album Running with Scissors like maybe 20,000 times. That
one's great. And we went to see Weird Al live. Like he just loves this type of comedy music. And so I just brought up with him. I was like, dude, do you remember Songs to Wear Pants To? And he was like, holy shit. And we looked up, like if you look on YouTube, Songs to Wear Pants To, it's like most of his discography is just available up there. And I'm talking, dude, the guy's got like thousands of songs that I think he put out over maybe like a 2 or 3 year period, and then he just stopped. But a lot of them are funny. Like there's one called I'm a Sad, Sad Toaster Made of Glass. That's really funny. That's a highlight.
Apparently he's still doing it. He's got one in 2022 called Dust and Dewdrops.
Is it under that same name?
And it's not songs. It's under Andrew Huang.
Yeah, that's I guess his real name. But
Yeah.
very like Newgrounds era, like that type of.
Yeah, he provided instrumentation and songwriting for Hank Green and the perfect. It's Hank Green's album of the Vlog Brothers, who got cancer recently, but also came out as bisexual in the Cancer Post, which was, which, you know, I'm sad he has cancer, but that's very funny to be like, I have cancer. Also I'm bisexual.
it's not all bad news. Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Oh my God. And I gotta just say, by the way, Weird Al. If anybody gets a chance to see Weird Al live, that man is fucking awesome. I
love that, because it's like, it's usually if you get to see the Grateful Dead live, you know, you gotta see Fish live. No, you gotta see Weird Al live. Weird Al, you don't understand.
Look, Weird Al is really funny. He does he is seriously committed to entertainment. You know what I mean? And like when I went to go see him live, it was at this like fairly small like amphitheater. Like we were pretty close actually. And a highlight moment was that he was singing this like he brought out an acoustic guitar that he had slung over his like around his back basically, and he would just be singing into the mic and then stop singing and whip the guitar around, and he was holding it, and before he played a single note he would just whip it back around and start singing again. And he did that something like 4 or 5 times without ever touching a single string on the guitar. And then when the song ended, he just smashed it on the ground, like he just like destroyed the guitar. And I still think about that from time to time. Just a great, like, he's just a great performer.
Oh yeah,
super funny.
Great bit.
I learned he's a Christian.
Yeah, he's a Christian. Well. Yeah,
that's why he doesn't curse or drink or do drugs or anything.
Yeah. Which I think it's like, it's weird to be a guy who like sort of the Weird Al humor, or at least who he hangs around with. You know, it can get pretty fucked up, pretty blue at times. You know, which is funny that he's reconciling that with, which is apparently a very deep faith.
Yeah, I think he's been at it. I mean, I think that's part of his whole MO, and I didn't realize that until I was just reading about him online like a week ago when I was talking about him with my friend. Which is crazy. And you have a very funny comic where you're like,
a Jewish child realizes that Weird Al Yankovic is not Jewish, and it's not. No, I can't accept this. He's one of our heroes.
We also just watched
UHF.
Yes, we just watched UHF, which I had never seen before.
Great movie.
Very funny. Very funny. Yeah, a lot of good moments in that one too.
If I were given a budget, that's the type of comedy movie I would want to make again. A UHF, or have you ever seen Freaked? Alex Winter's Freaked?
No, I have not.
Alex Winter, the other guy from Bill and Ted, who wasn't Keanu Reeves, who's very good. He's a very talented filmmaker. Because I don't want to pigeonhole him as just the other guy from Bill and Ted. But he had this weird 90s comedy, this sketch comedy show on MTV called The Idiot Box.
Okay.
Which was like really like sort of how there were all these like strangely aggressive sketch comedy shows for the time. Like Kids in the Hall was like, wow, this is like weirdly aggressive for its time. You know, I wasn't expecting it.
Yeah.
But yeah, they made this movie Freaked, which was originally a vehicle for the Butthole Surfers.
Okay. Love those guys.
And it had a budget too. It had like a $10 million budget, which they spent to great effect on these really great looking like claymation effects and like weird practical effects and glue latex and stuff like that. And then the Fox studio executive changed. There was a different one. He saw the movie, he fucking hated it, and then it opened on one screen, and it has something like, it has one of the lowest box office revenues of all time. It has like of $20,000 or something like that.
Jesus Christ! I think that's about how much the new Flash movie is going to make. Actually, something like that.
I can't believe how bad must that Batgirl movie have been that's the movie. You know, the Ezra Miller, the gigantic,
and I keep
world traveling crime committee.
Literally. and I don't know. I keep seeing trailers for it because they play it at the beginning of every fucking movie. For the last, I swear to God, the last like 6 months I've been seeing it on I'm like, dude, can this movie please come out already so I do not have to see this trailer anymore? Where they just show Michael Keaton and his like old doughy face was crammed into that Batman suit that looks like they just dusted it off.
And it looks like
collection.
He's half-heartedly saying, "Yeah, I'm Batman." Like, that's the best take you could get. He's he did Birdman, which was a movie about how that would like your superhero identity fucks with you and is shitty and dumb and base.
Yes,
and you're constantly trying to exceed that shit, and then you go and you're like, "Yeah, I'm Batman." What can I do? They wheeled a dump truck of money up to my house.
You know that they paid him some exorbitant amount to do that. And also, I heard apparently that there's word on the street is that fucking, who's the other Batman guy? Married to J-Lo?
Ben Affleck. You couldn't remember Ben Affleck?
I just got J-Lo on the mind always. But he apparently there were reports that he was like completely despondent during filming of that movie, that because he's in it too, and he just could not have wanted to be there any less. And
I get it, I don't think any amount of money would make me feel good on one of those superhero movies.
No, and I mean, probably, like, I'm sure a big part of it is also, I was sort of talking to my friend about this because we went to go see this new Spider-Verse movie. Which have you seen that one?
No, apparently it's the best thing ever. Everybody loves it. It looks fucking great.
It's really good. It's very good. I highly recommend it, and especially because we're in kind of a dark time for like animation as a business. It's very promising. It looks awesome. So definitely run out and see that. But they played that trailer at the Flash trailer at the beginning of that movie, and my buddy brought up a good point that because I was telling him how despondent Ben Affleck was during the filming of it, and he was like, yeah, dude, I mean, imagine like you've got the Marvel shit going on, right, and you're Ben Affleck, and they bring you, they're like, we want you to play Batman, and you're in the DC universe, and you're feeling like, dude, this is about to be my fucking like Robert Downey Jr. moment, like, you know what I mean? Not that I ever went away, but like, I'm about to be the fucking Batman.
Yeah,
in, like,
the biggest star, the biggest character in the stable of this iconic roster.
And then they suck, right? All the movies suck. Like, they're all terrible. No, they're completely. Everybody's just like, fuck this. Can't cancel.
Snyder Cut's all right.
I haven't even seen that. And then I heard Justice League was like one of the worst movies ever made, or something like that.
It's,
and then Amber Heard is out.
I've weirdly taken a Zack Snyder apologism stance. I don't know why. I have no. It's because of how good he comes across in interviews. Zack Snyder, also another weird Christian guy who's like, he seems all right, but
is he Christian too?
Yeah, he's a big Christian, Yeah, I mean, you see it in the iconography as his movie, Superman is sad, Jesus. I am sad, Jesus, Superman. So Scorsese was famous for saying that the superhero movies aren't cinema, and then every nerd was like, I know better than Martin Scorsese. I think I have, has Martin Scorsese seen Guardians of the Galaxy?
Yeah. Oh my God, for real.
And then some interviewer posed Zack Snyder the question, and the response he had was so disarming and so genuinely cute.
Did he agree?
No, he was like, no, he basically just said, well, he's Martin Scorsese. I like to think he likes my movies. I like to think he's not talking about my superhero movies. And then he chuckles. He's like, I think there's sort of a certain awareness of him, of he knows what he likes and he knows what he is, and he's not trying to pretend to be cinema, which is another reason why Zack Snyder, I guess, no, even though he sort of does try and be cinema sometimes, but
so I mean, I think
he's just like a dumb, good-natured guy. Like, he likes the Fountainhead, not because he likes Ayn Rand's politics. I don't know, he might like Ayn Rand's politics, but when asked why he liked the Fountainhead, he said, it's a good story about buildings and architecture. And it's like, oh yeah, I like you, Zack Snyder. You're all right. You read things only on that one level, and thus you're sort of an entertaining. He's a himbo. That's what's he's a himbo stereotype.
Well, you know what? I actually have come to really appreciate people that have like, they're very honest and unpretentious in their movie takes. Like, I think. I actually think, I know a lot of people don't like this word, or they kind of chalk it up as being like cringe or nerdy or whatever, but I actually think the word Kino has done I think it's actually done a really like good, it's had a really positive effect on like the movie community, because it's really easy to be like a pretentious dick and discredit a lot of movies that are you see as vapid or stupid or lowest common denominator. But Kino is actually a very good way to describe a lot of movies that are kind of dumb or haven't aged well, but are just kind of like fun, and cool,
or have moments in them. The way that I interpret Kino in my headcanon, which is obviously not, but even in like the dumbest movies, especially like ones from back in the 90s, you go to like the dumbest movie in the 90s, like The Devil's Advocate or something like that.
Oh my god, yes, I just watched that.
But you'll just see any individual shot from The Devil's Advocate and it's like, wow, this is a fucking beautiful fucking shot.
Yes.
There's like such great composition in here, and like
yes.
So yeah, even that like dumb bass stuff can be Kino, and I think it can be I'm struggling to think of like a Marvel movie that I would call Kino. I don't think they're meant for that, which is...
No, I think the original Iron Man, like the very first Iron Man, is Kino. Like
I don't think it's Kino.
Oh,
it's
really?
Not,
I like that.
Kino, not Kino. We're playing also, Kino, not Kino.
I think part of the reason that one's Kino to me is because it also brings me back to a time like that one came out, if I'm remembering correctly, in 2008, which I would have been in like the 8th grade, which was just like a fun time to go see movies. Like the same way I would say, like, I think the Harry Potter movies are Kino, even though like
the third one's Kino because it's directed by like an actual good director.
But you know what's funny? I think it was during quarantine. My mom had never seen the Harry Potter movies.
Okay.
And me and my brother were like, oh my god, but Mom, it's Kino. You got to see it.
You got to see the goddamn stupid Kino. It's the fucking stupid. It's I mean, the first two movies are not. They're those are some like bland ass movies.
Oh really? Oh no, I think those are Kino too.
Oh, you like the Chris Columbus movies?
I like those movies. I actually think those are the most Kino. I think those are really good because they're cozy.
Transphobe.
I think what's interesting is that it's so. By the way, this slight tangent, but it's so funny. Whenever Zach and I discuss movies on Cold Cuts podcast, we get our comment section is always exploding with people just like, you guys need to stop talking about movies, like these are the worst movie takes I've ever heard. But it's like, but that's what I love about movie discussion is that it's completely subjective, especially when you bring Kino into the mix. But I think the quality of the first two Harry Potter movies is that they are colorful and they're like colorful. Saturated and colorful in a way that the movies just never were again after the third one. I think there's something also about there's something cozy and exciting about rewatching them because it's so early on. They're kids in that movie, and there's so much shit that happens later in the movies that just gets properly insane, you know what I mean? And like in those movies, they're kind of like simple and contained, and so there's something kind of exciting to me when I watch it.
There's like an episodic quality, like it's crazy. Like watching a Star Trek or something like that,
right? And I remember when we put on Prisoner of Azkaban, I was telling my mom, like, by the way, Mom, this is the best one, so gear up because this is about to be really good. And when I watched it with her, it was. She didn't get it, and it was really hard to explain. And there's a lot of like, I noticed as I was watching it, there are a lot of kind of like plot holes or like
the time turner breaks the Harry Potter universe.
The time turner, and the biggest thing being Sirius Black. I can't believe we're having earnest discussion about Harry Potter.
Let's talk about it. Let's everyone loves fucking Harry Potter. It's the hottest thing right now. There's no controversy surrounding Harry Potter whatsoever.
Pure distilled Kino.
Obviously, fuck J.K. Rowling. All my homies hate J.K. Rowling.
Even that is like passe at this point. Like everybody knows J.K. Rowling's shitty, but
it doesn't need to be said. But fuck her, Anyway. But now let's talk about her amazing writing.
Here's the thing: is actually when we were watching it, one of the biggest glaring issues when I was watching Prisoner of Azkaban is that Sirius Black's behavior in that movie makes zero fucking sense, and because he literally is acting like I'm the Joker baby for like the entire movie, and then it's revealed that he has no intention of harming Harry at all. He never did, and that he was just trying to get at fucking Peter Pendergrass or whatever the fuck. And then in the very next movie, he's all like cleaned up and nice and happy.
He's
like,
normal
he's
uncle, yeah.
Completely normal.
Well,
And it's like,
I think it's implied that he's fucked up. He's got PTSD from being in Azkaban around the Dementors. He
definitely has PTSD, but it's still, I would say, the suspension
Dementors, Jesus Christ.
The Dementors, the suspension of belief of that is required to believe that Sirius Black is the driving antagonist behind that entire movie, and then to learn that his intentions were pure the entire time. It actually doesn't make sense, and it made me drop the tier list. Prisoner of Azkaban dropped a couple slots for me that
I
day.
see. Yeah. I think like the emotional quality. I mean, the reason why I think it is the best of the books and of the movies, or why I like the plot, is, forget about, it's a magic world. Anything can happen because it's magic. Something weird happened. A wizard did it, literally. And
yeah, that's true.
And so but whereas the rest of the movies are sort of this, or the rest of the books are about this almost like militaristic, punch the bad guy at the end sort of thing. Harry becomes a cop. Azkaban is about the forgiving a prisoner and, trying to see the good in somebody that you've prejudged as bad, which is why it has sort of like a different tone than the rest of the Harry Potter books, which I would describe as punitive, in that British way, oh, you did something wrong, so now you must be punished, and the punishment must be very, very grave. It has that quality to it, that cruelty that a lot of British media has. Yeah,
but you know what? One of my favorite things also about the Harry Potter franchise, I'm really not even that much of a Harry Potter nut, but since we're talking about it, one of my favorite things about it is I think the Professor Snape character arc in like his final moments throughout those movies, and then you can actually, I mean,
Alan Rickman is a lot of the reason why that character is 100% as well.
100%. But I think especially the fact that you can go back and watch a lot of the previous movies, and all of his behavior is explained, unlike what I'm complaining about with Sirius Black. I think that actually it makes all of a sudden everything about Sirius Black makes not Sirius Black,
Severus Snape
makes sense in those final moments. Definitely one of the sweet moments of that movie, highlight moment.
I mean, people have also pointed out how fucked it is. Oh, so this guy, through his inceldom, through his devotional inceldom, ends up becoming the goodest spy of them all.
Yeah, it's true.
Which is fun, whatever. That's a fine character.
But I think the point is, you're supposed to. Here we talk about media literacy, right? It's like, I actually appreciate movies and media where you have to wrestle with it a little bit. You can't, you know what I mean?
I think he is a good character in that he does have a negative personality trait that does somehow end up making him do good in the end, but just through this fucked up series of circumstances, through devotional love, and platonic, actually a romantic devotional love that is never reciprocated. He ends up doing good.
And actually, I think even sometimes more interesting than that is when a character with good intentions does bad things.
Oh yeah, that's my favorite story. That's my favorite story in the world, is when somebody who really, really means well ends up fucking up disastrously. No, me too. And actually, I think that's part of I really like this new Last of Us series. It's really hard for me to watch or enjoy a series on TV, but I watched this Last of Us one, and I guess I don't want to spoil it, but if anybody we'll just say spoilers for The Last of Us if you haven't seen the show or played
over the next
game.
30 seconds. But what's his name?
Joel
ends up brutally murdering an entire camp of doctors and scientists because they say that they're going to put Ellie down so that they can study her, right? Or basically extract her immune blood for whatever reason. And so Joel, who's the prime protagonist for the entire movie, just absolutely obliterates the camp, which is hard to watch, but it's also what makes it a compelling story. It would have been kind of I don't think it would have been nearly as memorable if it ended on a way that was too open-ended or didn't challenge you in any way, or you know what I mean. I think that was a cool way to end.
I also like when somebody destroys the world for the sake of their emotional relationship. Yes. I think that's Cabin in the Woods, which I watched again recently, and has aged pretty bad.
Has it really?
We talk about Whedon dialogue as being getting really tiresome, and that movie is just wall-to-wall Whedon dialogue.
Yes, that's real.
But I really also, spoilers for Cabin in the Woods, at the end when they make the decision to not sacrifice themselves in order to appease the gods. I think that's really funny. You're just willing to destroy the world because I don't deserve to die, not on those terms. I'm gonna die anyway, but I
might as well just destroy this shit. I remember the first time seeing that movie and just being like, holy shit, man, best movie ever. But part of the reason was because it was marketed as nothing like that.
You weren't expecting that.
I went into it completely just expecting some like
literally a Cabin in the Woods movie.
Literally just like a corny like dime a dozen horror movie, and it was very not that. But
and it was really like before Rick and Morty in terms of like cresting on the meta wave of media analysis. Everybody's on TV tropes now, so we're gonna make the TV tropes movie.
Exactly. I do think it's funny, and it is definitely so ever present in Marvel movies, especially. Anytime there is a moment that's even a hair, like a bit sincere, like you're almost about to deal with a real emotion, and there has to be one character that's like, boy, you know what I mean? And you're just like,
did you just say that?
Yeah, literally. I just moved that with my mind. That
the comment shit.
The commentary. It's like, I don't know when we're gonna be past that, but it feels like we're close, right? We have to be on the other end of the half-life of that type of movie.
I think recent movies, like, I think part of the reason like Top Gun, the new Top Gun, was so well received is because people don't talk like that in that movie. It's a big action movie, but people don't do the did I just fly that plane? You just flew that plane.
Literally. Or even the John Wick movies, which I love. I only watched all of them this year in preparation to see the fourth one, and the fourth one was incredible. But those movies are extremely they're not.
There are no witty asides I mean, there is a meta commentary though, which is what I find interesting about John Wick, because I mean the John Wick movies are about Keanu dealing with his own grief, and I mean that's the most basic interpretation of them. But he lost his wife, and the movie's all about killing a lot of people in order to cope with the loss of your wife,
which is awesome. And and I feel like they are self-serious, but they're also really immaculately done. So and the self-seriousness adds to that, right?
It's a movie. You're supposed to be self-serious, right? You're not supposed to be undercutting it.
But you forget, because so many movies don't do that. Like that is kind of it's kind of weird. Like that's even like some of these movies, like some of these Daniel Day-Lewis movies. I love There Will Be Blood. That's a very self-serious movie. And then I just watched this one, which I don't know what compelled me to watch it, because I was like, I know I'm going to fall asleep. But I ended up watching the whole thing, this Phantom Thread.
Oh, I love Phantom. Phantom Thread is great.
It is actually really good, but it was like it was extremely muted and very like quiet, and very little happens. But if you take the time to sit there and enjoy it or appreciate it for what it is, I thought it was like another very like twisted, interesting movie.
It's slow and weird and tense, and spoilers, it's all about how lightly poisoning your loved one can lead to a better relationship.
Pretty much. It's not based on a true story, is it?
No, I don't think it's based on a true story.
Seems like it would be insane. And obviously Daniel Day-Lewis is like, you want to hate on the guy because he just takes these roles that are so
he's the most intense man that ever existed, and he's probably has no sense of humor about himself, and
absolutely not.
But when you're the best actor in the world, you can get away with that shit.
He kind of is. I mean, he only has been, what has he been in, 4 movies? like
he's been in like 10 movies. One of them was 9, mysteriously enough, which is that weird Federico Fellini musical.
Yeah,
where he plays Fellini, and it's like, I haven't seen it, but it's supposed to be fucking garbage. What I've heard.
I actually accidentally saw that movie in theaters.
You saw 9 in theaters? Why did you see 9 in theaters?
Because if you remember correctly, it came out at the same time there was another movie called 9. But
the animated movie called 9, yeah.
Number 9. That's like, I don't know if it's Tim Burton, but it's Tim Burton.
It's Shane Acker, I think, is the guy that.
Yeah, we intended to see that and got tickets for the wrong movie. And we had to see, which actually, I mean, that movie is really interesting. I don't know if it was, I don't really think it brought the house down or anything, but it came out I think they were literally in theaters at the same time, and we got tickets for the wrong 9. So we saw that. We saw the like very corny romance musical as instead of this, like, you know, edgy, when I was a teenager, it's like edgy
the sort of dark little animated movie about little puppets navigating a post-apocalyptic landscape.
Couldn't have been any different tonally.
yeah, the most different possible movies. A corny send up to the movies of Fellini, or a little post-apocalyptic puppet movie.
Literally. And actually, funny enough, the 9 motif seems to be recurring here. I also me and my friends were actually forced to see the movie Bandcamp in theaters because we were not old enough to buy tickets for District 9, and we got tickets for Bandcamp.
Wait, the American Pie movie Bandcamp? The American Pie spin-off movie Bandcamp?
I don't know if it's a spin-off, but it was like a band. Oh, wait, was it called Bandcamp?
Was it American Pie Presents Bandcamp? You might have been too young for that.
No,
that was 2005.
It wasn't that. What the hell am I thinking of? Wait, it was a Vanessa Hudgens movie. Vanessa Hudgens.
It was a Vanessa Hudgens movie.
Not Bandcamp. Movie.
Camp Rock?
It wasn't Camp Rock.
I don't know. That's a Disney Channel movie. I think I'm mixing
things up.
Okay. You couldn't see District 9? Hate to see District 9 that turned into prawns?
Oh, Band Slam.
Band Slam. What the fuck is
called.
Band Slam?
Dude, it was just like a teen, like a tween movie. You know what I mean? That's like what you're supposed to, like high schoolers, and it's like the blonde chick is the bully, and she's like, you're in a band, good luck, losers, and everyone laughs, and then they actually like bring the house down, like, you know, like Bubble Bowl SpongeBob style. But anyway,
David Bowie has a cameo appearance.
I remember that, but we got tickets for Band Slam and snuck and waltzed right into District 9 to go see that one. Mm-hmm. And the theater attendant, the usher, came over and was like, guys, I get it. I'm not going to kick you out of the movie theater. All right. I'm not going to revoke your tickets. You got to go see Band Slam. You cannot see District 9. And so we like looked at each other and we were like, okay. And we just got up and we ended up seeing Band Slam instead.
You had to see Band Slam.
I did not see District 9 until it was on home video.
It's a pretty good movie. I like District 9.
Yeah, definitely a core memory. Yeah, it's a great movie. It's a good movie.
Segueing, something I wanted to talk to you about, because Harris, you're good at, you're consistently putting out a lot of heat. Consistently putting out a lot of hot jokes.
Thank you.
I wanted to talk to you about the process. I wanted to talk about, because for me, there's like a couple of ways I get jokes. Sometimes it's like lightning bolt to your head, and it's like, instantly something is in my head and I can write it down quickly. Totally. Sometimes I'll like just think of any subject and I'll like agonize over it for like an hour and then come up with anything. And
that's so real. Yeah, that's very real. I mean, I think it's similar. Like, I definitely have those lightning bolt moments from time to time. Sometimes I get a little bit like doom and gloom because I feel like they happen a little bit less these days than when I started. Yeah,
they never happen because it's new. They're coming to you a lot more because you haven't done stuff yet. So it's like, ooh, I can do this for the first time. I can do this for the first time. Yeah,
that's true. But sometimes I still do. I actually did just get like kind of a lightning bolt one. I know jokes are not funny to explain, so please excuse me explaining.
That's fine. I like explaining jokes. I like talking about it.
But I was literally just on a walk today, and I happened to be listening to this reggae album, and I don't really like reggae music, but this one by Burning Spear called Marcus Garvey.
Oh, love Burning Spear.
My
They're
God, phenomenal fucking album. And I'm telling, from a point, like I really am not like a reggae listener, but it's just so good. But I was listening to it, and I had this kind of lightning bolt moment that was sort of, maybe that's overplaying it, but I was like, I want to draw. I think I'm going to draw it even when we hop off here. That's like, it's like a panel of judges that are like, they're all like Jamaican, or like, and they're like, why should you be the next reggae X Factor winner? And the band is up on stage, and they're like, we're just doing something different, and then all three of the judges hit the red buzzer like immediately, like, because like, and the joke being that literally all reggae is like, it all sounds the same, basically. Well, I mean, obviously not all of it, but I think like it is. They all just go like dun, 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 dun. You know what I mean? Like that's kind of why I'm not a huge fan of reggae, but there's a lot of gold there, of course.
I mean, there's variation. I mean, you can. I'm trying to think of like the big reggae bands. Who did I Got a Spark of Sense in Me? Black Uhuru. They're pretty good. You know, I mean, it is very. I mean,
I mean, Peter Tosh is great. I mean, Bob Marley, even though I know he's kind of just like, he's just at your weed dealer. There's a poster at your weed dealer's house, and that's kind of what you associate with him now. It's like, I mean, dude, that album.
It's hard to hate Bob Marley. Yeah,
no, he is one of the best artist.
For a reason. Yeah.
Yes, for sure. He's definitely goated. And but anyway, when we're talking about process, I kind of like, a lot of the times a lot of the comics actually that tend to do well number wise for me. Not that really counts for anything, but sometimes it's hard not to.
You get it. Right? Ooh, like, no, it's going up.
It's going up. You got it. After I post it, you know, like embarrassingly, I have to kind of sit there and watch like the first few minutes.
Well, it's like doing this. You know what I do? Sometimes if it's going up really fast, I'll slam my hand down on the table and like make yawping noises, like
yeah. It does feel like that, because I can tell the first 5 minutes are very telling, like performance of something, especially on Twitter, where you can just live watch the numbers go up. And especially if there's one that I worked really hard on, or I'm really just like, I really hope people like this, it can be either very exciting to see people respond positively to it, but on the other hand, it can be devastating to watch it not perform well and feel like, well, I guess that was just funny to me.
Yeah, but you go into, well, fuck you, this was one for me mode.
Yeah, exactly. Which honestly, in some way, is actually a healthy way to look at it anyway. Like I do like drawing things for me, but you know, a lot of the times that I have ones that do well, it's because it was an idea that I wrote down a little while ago and soft abandoned, because I was like, this is maybe too weird, or people won't get it, or maybe I just think this is funny, or this is going to be hard to draw, not worth the payoff. You know what I mean? And sometimes I'm right? Sometimes I draw it and I put it out there and it really doesn't do so well, but I'm like, you know what, whatever. It's more content is content. But sometimes those ones go sicko mode, you know what I mean? There was the one that I always think of. There's a few of them. There's one that I always think of is the one that I did of the penguins of Madagascar, where they're like, our next target, the Japanese prime minister, and then the other one is like, actually, I think he died 4 months ago, and he's like, excellent work, boys. I drew that one, and I was like, well, I think this is funny. And I put it on the Patreon. Like, it was because, you know, when people, they get early access, just like Patreon, I'm sure they could see it first. And I want to say, like, it didn't even really get numbers on the Patreon. Like, I didn't really get like a positive reaction from the patrons. And I was kind of like, maybe this isn't funny. Like, maybe this is lame. And I actually like sat on it. It sat there for like 2 weeks. And then, eventually I was like, you know what? It's if I don't post this now, it won't be timely anymore. So I might as well just put it out there. And it's like one of my highest performing.
Yeah, people love it. Yeah, people because it's sort of I love the Shinzo Abe assassination because it's fucked up and edgy, but you're weirdly allowed to joke about it because everything turned out okay. Like,
everything turned out fine. And also, like, I'm so distanced from that. You know what I mean? Like, I cannot pretend to know anything about Japanese politics, and like, I'm dubious of any Westerner or American that wants to, you know, educate me on what's going on out there, because I'm like, dude, there is like, I mean, come on, man. I don't know what the fuck is going on out there, but I did know that I don't think he was well liked. I think he was a very
well, he was sort of well liked. There was like a big nationalist the nationalist core of Japan that liked his nationalist views, because his grandfather was like an administrator in China when they were doing all the terrible things.
Yeah.
And like one of his big goals as a politician was to erase more of that history, was to erase the shame of that shit.
Usually not good.
Yeah. So he got a lot of flack for that. But that wasn't the thing that ultimately got people against him, because the thing that the guy shot him for was because he was associated with the Mooney Church. He was associated with the Unification Church, which is I think it's out of Korea. And they scam a lot of people. They scam a lot of people and take their money. And, you know, throughout the 90s and throughout the 80s and 90s and even on today, like cults are a big problem in Japan. And it, like, everybody has a story about, oh, yeah, one of their relatives like joined this weird church and they took all their money from them. And that's the reason why the guy assassinated Abe. And so like 80% of Japan was like, oh, it's terrible that he killed it, but we don't like these fucking cults, right? And he was associated, which is why everyone was sort of cool with it. And then there was a bunch of like anti-cult legislation put forward in Japan after the assassination. I mean, which is what made it the most, like some have said, it's the most successful political assassination in all of history.
That is kind of insane. I mean, I didn't know about any of that. I knew that Japan had some cults, and again, this is not me pretending to know anything about Japanese culture. I've never been, and I don't actually have any close friends close enough that are Japanese that could like educate me on any of this. But I had a friend that just visited there she was there for like a while, like even maybe like a month, and had a bunch of cool stories, but also was remarking on how like Japan is interesting because it's an island, and it also is, it's a bit like isolationist in its like culture, that, you know, they really kind of themselves, and so it sort of like, because it's such a small country size wise, they're kind of, it's the culture has evolved in a very bizarre way, and so that's why there's a lot of
unique way, a very
unique. Yeah, it's probably a more appropriate way of describing it.
But bizarre, those fucking weirdo. I mean, we did drop a bomb on them, so you can forgive them if they're a little bizarre.
Which definitely did affect a lot of. I mean, culturally, not just culturally, but artistically. I mean, that I think had a huge effect on a lot of, like, I mean, Godzilla is literally like
Godzilla. Ain't no Akira without Hiroshima.
That too, yeah. It's true.
Look, Hiroshima was bad, but we got Akira out of it. No, so who's to say
it's
obviously right and wrong?
It's obviously totally tragic, and it's also interesting to examine how the culture has shifted so dramatically. I mean, over there since then, and like. But they also, I mean, Japan, there is, and I think a lot of American people would probably agree with this sentiment, is like, I think some of the coolest art, some of the coolest media that exists comes out of that country. It's just, I mean, I don't know if it's a work ethic thing, because I know that they have a crazy amount of work ethic, and but I mean, dude, like Miyazaki movies, those alone, which have really broken into the Western mindset, are like some of the most beautiful, like emotive, lush animated movies that have ever been created. You know what I mean? I think they rival almost every Western animation. Like I think Western animation is like almost now just catching up in terms of making things that are very like unique and beautiful, and maybe actually pushing the genre forward.
Well, we've also lost a lot of our taste for 2D traditional animation, which is a big shame.
It's a huge shame. Yeah, I mean, the fact that Disney doesn't do 2D animated movies anymore. I think the last thing that they put out was like Princess and the Frog, and even that is like, what is that, like 15 years old or something?
Yeah, it's from 2009.
Movie. 2009. So maybe not that old, but it's like, like, oh no, I guess that would be about 2009.
Yeah, you don't realize how long time has passed. The passage of time.
It is insane, but like that does kind of make me feel, I don't know. It's something that I want to point out that is always very frustrating to me is that the best looking 2D animated thing that is currently out there right now is Disenchantment, is Matt Groening's Disenchantment, which, have you ever seen it? No.
Yeah, you don't even know about it because it flows. It's like the Matt Groening's fantasy series on Netflix.
Let me see.
And the thing about it is the writing in it is not great. It does not have a very high jokes per minute ratio as Futurama or like Golden Age Simpsons.
Okay.
A lot of the writing goes to plot, like to exposition of plot, because it's very serialized. But the plot is boring, and the characters are largely unlikable.
Not doing a great job selling this show to me. But
well, the other thing is it has the most gorgeous 2D animation out there right now, which is like almost why I hope for it to get renewed, just so I can keep watching this. For some reason, because I guess it has the Matt Groening pedigree, it's like one of the few animated shows that Netflix is willing to put a budget behind.
Interesting. And didn't axe, basically. Yeah. I mean, that's interesting. I love 2D animation. I think they look really cool. I mean, I think on like my list of favorite animated movies, most of them would be 2D animation, but I don't know. 3D animation is, I think it's just oversaturated. You know, like there's a lot of good stuff still coming out, including this new Spider-Man movie. You know, which is
and you see the trend has been make it closer to 2D animation. What if we made this 3D animation look like 2D animation?
Right, and that part is really cool, and there's a lot of images of that movie that are like as a still they look like 2D. It's a very unique art style, which is, it's definitely a visual feast, and that part is like refreshing compared to like I don't know, you know, a lot of
what's like the newest Pixar? I get Elemental, you know. That style is kind of, you know, I'm sure people work very hard on it, and it's a very, you know, good looking. It has a sheen to it, but it's sort of predictable.
I think like almost, you know what? And I'm gonna sound a little. Here's another. I can already see the cold cuts Beetle Moses should not talk about movies.
We were also talking about haters earlier and how much we hate the haters, but we're I mean, there's a difference between like hating and criticism. You know, I think when we're saying this, we acknowledge that the people worked hard on it and they're deserving of their accolades for just accomplishing this feat of craft. But you know, you want to talk about where it stands in the ultimate cultural panoply, or the ultimate cultural legacy of it.
I think that the movie that came out a few years ago from Pixar, the movie Soul, which I think was met with a lot of acclaim because the animation does look really good. It was kind of one of the first times that I saw a new Pixar movie, and I was like, I don't think this one clicked for me. And I think part of it was because the emotional core of the movie, which is like the way that it ends, which is it's supposed to feel very like hurt, like gut-wrenching, because he gets to appreciate life. It actually felt kind of like cheap, and that they were, to me, because it felt like Pixar trying to do the Pixar thing. Like, animated movies can make you feel things, man, and it's look how beautiful life is. Like that was the thing behind it, right? The actual messaging. And I kind of was just like, I don't know, this felt like kind of a cheap emotional,
it becomes trite, it becomes war bad
to me. It did feel that way, like, isn't life beautiful? And I was like, I don't really think you guys needed to make a $2 billion 2-hour movie to tell me that life was beautiful.
There's more depth in like the original Cars movie, which is about how highway infrastructure hollowed out the American rural infrastructure.
No, I think there's actually something there, though, is that I think that I think Pixar, and the reason people sort of begin to dunk on Pixar, because it's like, what if feelings had feelings, man? You know what I mean? It kind of, they do get to a point where they've almost forgotten their core, which is that you can take a really unlikely hero or situation and make somebody feel very strong emotions towards them. You know what I mean? But through simple, humanistic writing. And I thought that like Soul kind of whiffed that a bit, because they went right for the gut instead of trying to make you actually care. I don't know.
It sort of, the message should sneak up on you. It shouldn't be in the movie at all times, and you know, you shouldn't be. I think it's also another thing we were just. It's just style too. Eventually, we know the nice, round, smooth Pixar characters they were relevant at one time, but they are seeing less and less relevant as, you know, this new style, which was championed by the original Spider-Verse movie. This frame dropping, sort of two-dimensional looking, painterly like style. Because you see the trailers for the new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie, looks great, obviously, or the new Puss in Boots was very influenced by that style as well. So I think the sort of like, and what sort of makes those movies good looking or make them feel more organic is they are rougher looking. There is a roughness to them that is more appealing than the smoothness of Pixar movies.
And I love that, and I even think that's why, this is a whole other conversation, but like that's even why I like at this point, at this level, feel unintimidated by I shouldn't even go here, but like
by AI. Me too. I was like, fuck you. You will never write a dick joke as good as me, AI.
And actually, because like my favorite type of art to consume or just appreciate, the stuff that I appreciate, is the really gritty, like primal, you know, like sort of that part of like the human mind that can create things that are almost ugly, like those the imperfections is what makes, I think, art so interesting and unique. And which is why also, for example, like I've been a Basquiat fan for so long, because his stuff is obviously genius and very cerebral in its own right, but like the look of it,
but it's rough and grungy. Messy,
which is awesome.
That's part of the aesthetic.
And I know a lot of artists that are extremely talented, but their whole MO is to draw things like, look, this drawing looks like a picture, man. This painting looks like a photograph. And I'm like, that never made sense to me. I'm like, what is the point of that? Why would that's like all technical ability, but no greater grasp of taste in my opinion.
Sometimes hyperrealism can be good if it has like another idea behind it, like the works of Chuck Close. You know about Chuck Close?
Of course.
And he does that sort of hyperrealistic style, but he has face blindness, so there's this, you know, there's a lot of ideas about perception and sensory input, and you know how we ultimately view the world, and you know how that can be split up into different types of form and color, and even hyperrealism can be abstractified. Or I'm trying to think of like the guy that also did the album cover for Sonic Youth's Daydream Nation of The Candle, very famous album cover.
Oh, is that a painting?
That's a painting. It's not a photo.
Interesting. Okay, I did not know that.
And obviously there is something very effective about that painting. There is something that is
it's cool. It's great use of color.
But
like in a muted way.
Yeah, Gerhard Richter is the guy, and he did photorealistic paintings. But in the case of The Candle, too, there is an emotion or a mood behind that photorealism. You know, I think that sort of the bland type of photorealism is like, look at this amazing pencil drawing of a celebrity. It's so realistic. You know, it's like, okay, but what are you beyond just the fact that you were able to technically produce this, which, you know, a machine can do? What are you trying to evoke? What is the message behind the celebrity? You know?
Yeah, no, I love stuff like that, and I also love like interacting with, you know, not interacting with, but I always appreciate art that is like ugly or negative or gritty or unpleasant to do, like because I am a very strong believer. This is what I also didn't get into. This is a callback to when I was talking about I was being a House of Decline apologist for your You Are Not Special comment. But like in that regard, it's like I think that art that makes you deal with negative emotions is important. It should exist, and that's why even this is a whole other thing, but like there are even some like artists, maybe comic artists who I won't name, that make things that I would never make, put out messaging that I would never make or appreciate. And those people deserve to get bullied online for sure. But it's also like I don't think there's any validity in like censoring or muting those people, because actually, again, I'm talking about media literacy.
Oh
It's
yeah,
like,
yeah.
you can't go burning books with you know, like I think
Yeah, unless they're directly threatening. I mean, that's the problem with Nazi speech, though. Like, if we're talking about
it's troubling.
someone like Stone Toss, where it's like, you know, even like the Holocaust denial, like the casual Holocaust denial, of like how many was 6 million really, you know, which within that there carries this tacit threat that, you know, we can revisit this on the Jews once again. There's always like this underlying threat with Nazi political rhetoric, which, as most people would agree, you know, threats are the point at which free speech breaks down and becomes unacceptable.
Sure. But I think also it's like, wouldn't you rather that well, I mean, this is actually a genuine question. Wouldn't you rather that art exist so that you knew it was there and that you could look at it and analyze it and like kind of have to wrestle with the fact that there are people like that out there that, you know, are Holocaust deniers or, you know, or just have like backwards beliefs or hate you? I would rather see it and know that it's there, because even though those people, and you could absolutely say that someone like Stone Toss is just a grifter, that he doesn't even actually believe what he's putting out there, but the fact that it resonates with people, it's like these people exist and you need to see it. Like, I'd rather know that it was there. I think we need to see it and talk about it. It's more important to see it and talk about it than it is to deplatform or just to destroy these people. You know what I mean?
I am of the mind that if I like were to do that calculus in my head of like how many people were radicalized to do violence to Jews because of Stone Toss versus I
don't know.
That's probably not a significant number. So which is ultimately why I would, you know, not say censor Stone Toss, you know, like don't put him on any big platforms or anything, but you know, he can have his Twitter or whatever, and we can see the Nazis and we can see them braying.
And if and honestly, I'm not even saying that from a standpoint that's like, I'm very big brain, this does not affect me. It's like, if you're asking me if I'm above like physical violence, the answer is no. But I just mean like, if I think sometimes people are so quick to dismiss art and ideas that they don't like, when in fact some of that stuff it draws me in, but because like it's hard to look away sometimes from ugly or disturbing art, I think is maybe the point I'm trying to make.
The classic, you know, Nazi speech case in Skokie v. Illinois, right?
No, what's that about?
So that's like the classic ACLU thing. A bunch of Nazis want to do a rally in Skokie, Illinois, which has a very high Jewish population. And there were a bunch of people saying, you know, fuck this, you know, these people should be arrested. You know, this type of speech should not be allowed, or this platform should not be given to them. You know, the government should censor these people, which I think for a Nazi rally in a majority Jewish town is probably a good idea. Actually, that's like where I would draw a lot. The ACLU didn't see it that way. The ACLU famously defended the Nazis because, you know, with similar rhetoric to what you're saying, not saying that you're defending the Nazis, but it's the idea that sunlight is the best disinfectant. We need these ideas out there, because if they're not out there, then we can't fight them. You know?
I mean,
and they just sort of stew in these secret societies until they erupt in some bigger form of public violence.
I know, and then the craziest thing is then what happens is that then something drastic or violent or, you know, hateful happens, like a crime happens, and people are like, well, how could this be? Where did this come from? You know, what was the, I mean, even like, I don't know necessarily what the background was with this guy, but I don't think we know. Remember the Las Vegas shooter, the guy that
Stephen Paddock, yeah.
Yeah, and that I think to this day, he didn't leave a note or a manifesto.
No, we don't know his motivations.
No
really.
hint as to why he did that, and it's like that is more disturbing, right? Because we don't know. We don't know what this guy was doing or what
we can speculate. I mean, I think my theory about Stephen Paddock is that he just has a certain type of American boredom.
That's crazy. I mean, like you could be right, but I don't know. It's hard to believe that there's no ideological reason behind something that drastic. Like,
yeah.
That is crazy though. But why,
I mean, sometimes it just
them?
happens. You know, the famous song "I Don't Like Mondays," right?
What is that?
It's okay. So, you know, Live Aid, right?
Yeah.
It was the biggest charity rock event in the world, and it was started by Bob Geldof, who was also Pink in the Pink Floyd movie The Wall. Okay. But before that, he was the lead singer of a band called the Boomtown Rats.
Okay, I'm aware of those guys.
Their big single was "I Don't Like Mondays," which is about I think a school shooting that was done by a woman in Britain in like the 70s. Which was not as like drastic a school shooting, or she brought a knife to school or something. Someone died in school because of her, and they asked her about it, and she said, "I don't like Mondays" was her reason.
That's bizarre.
Yeah. But it's weird that event led to Live Aid. You know, those dominoes falling.
That is bizarre. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I mean, that shit is disturbing. And I think that there is something, I mean, that's kind of like almost the Taxi Driver thing, right?
Yeah.
Like that he is another guy that, like, obviously it's a fictional character, but that story resonates because it's that same thing. It's this like
he pretends to have an ideological motivation, but really he's just bored.
He's just bored. Yeah, he's just bored and losing it because he's lonely. And I think I think that is real. That's actually part of the human id that is interesting, but it's scarier to me than, you know, if somebody commits a crime that's obviously a hate crime. It's just as tragic, but it's also like, well, you know, chalk it up. Now
you can get why somebody would become so passionate if they were infected by these terrible ideas. You get why they would become so passionate as to do something horrible.
Yeah, it upsets me a lot to see. I mean, I know Twitter sometimes overinflates some of this stuff, and it makes it feel like it's more common than it really is. But I do fear a lot about, like, in the next year or so, like stuff with the LGBT, specifically the T community. Like, I don't know. I don't know what happened in the last like 5 years. Not that I don't know what happened, but it's just like it really does feel like things are getting.
Yeah, we're gearing up for IRL violence.
Yeah, it does feel that way. And
I mean, you live in Florida, which is the worst of it.
Which is interesting because I actually like know some trans people here, and I have lived here almost my whole life, and I know I've been very blessed to know people from all walks of life, right? Like I know people who are a lot of different backgrounds or identities, and I think like some of the stuff that I hear about, like the legislation that's coming out in Florida, which is very disturbing and shocking, but there's also a lot of young people down here. It's a huge college state, which I think people forget sometimes. We have some really big campuses, and a lot of those young people are progressive. You know what I mean?
Yeah. If you lived in Gainesville all your life, you would be surprised that there are these hicks outside. There are these murderous hicks just,
I know,
outside of your door.
And especially because I'm in South Florida, like, I mean, trust me, I see a bunch of Trump bumper stickers driving around here, but I don't know if I see more than you would in any other like red state, really. You know, it's like it's a mix, and I don't know, like Florida is an insane state, but it's really
it's also
really
the most
split.
wholly unique, impossible to predict state in the fucking union. Yeah,
and one of my favorite things about Florida is that the Florida man thing is 100% real. Like like people out of control doing like the dumbest shit imaginable or the most bizarre shit because they're either on drugs or live near like alligators. That is so real. And I mean, I've seen things like that firsthand, but that's part of the charm, right? I because I grew up here, maybe I have a soft spot for the kind of like, you know, gas station a dweller vibe.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, there is a very like there are wacky people everywhere, but there's a very idiosyncratic wacky that comes out of Florida.
100%. Yeah, I
the alligator wrestling wacky, you know.
Yeah, and me saying any of this is not to discredit if there are trans people that are living in Florida and they're not feeling safe because of the legislation. Absolutely, you should go with your gut and get out.
I mean, that's what's fucked up about it. Like day to day, your life probably isn't affected that much. I mean, actually, it probably is with your access to get hormones and surgery and stuff like that. But
yeah, I mean,
especially if you're under 18 and you're trying to access that stuff, I'm sure it's really fucked up for you right now.
Yeah, I know somebody who's trans, and it's actually like, it's a unique experience. It's a different experience when you meet somebody and they've already transitioned versus when you know somebody and then they come out, after like a few years after you've known them.
Yeah.
And this was somebody that I knew that was the latter. And when they came out, I kind of was like trying to politely, because the other thing about trans people is that there's like really not that many of them.
No, it's like all of this hay is being made about like maybe 1% of the population at most. Maybe
at most. Even that is like, I think, highballing it.
It's like 0.2% by high estimates.
Yeah, I want to say, because I also lived in New York for some time, I probably have met like 10 or 11 trans people in my whole life, and I think that puts me in like the 99th percentile of like Americans. You know what I mean? And that's like such a small number. But this particular person I happen to be close to, and so I kind of was trying to like politely like ask questions just to because I guess I'm like,
no, it's what you do, and sometimes if you're close enough with somebody,
I wanted to know, like, I'll
answer gay questions to well-meaning straight people who are polite about it,
Yeah, and so I wanted to ask her, like, just like, what is the like are you taking hormones right now? And she was like, yes. And at this point you could tell she was taking hormones. Like her physical appearance was beginning to it's crazy what that stuff does.
Yeah, that shit is magic. Yeah,
that shit is powerful. And so she explained that, and I was asking her, like, what does that process look like? Like, and she said that like the doctor that she had been going to for like a long time either wouldn't or couldn't give them the what is it, estrogen? I don't know, the hormones, estradiol, something like that. And so she had to drive like 2 hours to like somewhere, I don't know, in like Orlando, like a doctor that is licensed and available to distribute this stuff. And I'm sure that, because I had that conversation with her a long time ago, unfortunately we fell out of touch for unrelated reasons, but like I can't even imagine what that process looks like now. I'm sure it's only gotten more difficult, or even if it hasn't gotten difficult yet, there's this looming feeling like, oh, I'm about to, the
hammer is gonna fall.
So I'm sure that sucks. I mean, that's real. Well,
because it's medicine. Imagine if you're like, oh, you're diabetic. Oh, insulin's illegal now because somebody has an ideological problem with it.
Literally. I mean, it's just, and the bottom line of it all is just like, isn't this America, guys? Free to be you and me?
Yeah, I thought this was America. I thought
literally, I hate to pull that card, but it's like, buddy, we are free to be you and me. Like you, and that part of what comes with that, and all the same people are also the free speech absolutists, or my body, my choice. I'm not going to take the vaccine type people. You know what I mean? And it's like, okay, actually, sure, I'm in your corner with that. I actually, it is my fucking edgy hot take, is that like, if people don't want to take the vaccine, I whatever, I took it. All right, my family took it. You know what, dude? But I also understand why some people who, in America especially, and I'm sure it's kind of like this in Canada too, there's a lot of people that have an instinctive mistrust of the government, which is completely reasonable.
Yeah, you should mistrust the government.
You should. And so a lot of people who
except, you need to be able to tell the difference when you should and when you shouldn't. That's part of being an adult.
It's part of being an adult, and it's part of thinking critically. But I also have to remind myself all the time that all of us, no matter how big brain you are, we're all seeing life through this little pinhole, right? You're just, this is your point of view, and a lot of people we're all examining the world through a little pinhole, and some people have their own point of view, and it's really hard to get out of that. It's, you know what I mean? And you can't, and and people who don't take it, I'm not necessarily saying, you're a martyr, you're a hero. No, that's not it at all. But I also am like, you know, that, but the other side of that is like, you're correct. So because you don't want your government dictating what can be put in your body, you need to also recognize that you're being completely hypocritical about these people, and that's not even harming you. That's completely
well, that's the thing, is because I think the philosophy or the morality that most people would say they subscribe to, and I'm talking to like 90% of the people, which is like sort of that vague libertarian, like small L libertarian philosophy, where if it doesn't affect me, if there are no negative externalities towards anyone else, if there's no like deleterious effect, as long as it's only affecting you, then go nuts, do what you want, you know? And so they have to come up with all sorts of weird reasons for why it's not affecting just them, because obviously if you're like taking hormones, it's you, it's just affecting you. There's no like air gap towards it, which is why they have to make it about the children, because if if trans ideology gets out there, then it is affecting me, because now my child thinks that they are, and then I have to have a conversation and they might not, and you're doing it, you know. They have to have all these like tortured reasons for why this is more than just a personal decision.
It's absolutely bizarre, and I mean, like, to me, the whole thing is a fucking charade, and I almost think of like, it's not a great analogy, but I just think of like, you know, look at fucking you know, people point to fucking like LGBT culture, like that this woke culture is what's like poisoning the youth because they're causing damage to their blah blah blah. And it's like, all right, guys, what about fucking skateboard culture? A lot of these, you know, here's skateboard culture. It appeals to the youth. It's fucking cool. You know what I mean? Everybody thinks that skateboarding looks cool. Dude, kids are breaking bones. They're getting paralyzed, right? They're getting concussions. They're cracking their skulls open. Part of skateboard culture is that a lot of people aren't wearing helmets or protective gear. You know what I mean? It's fucking nuts. And then also, to top it off, a lot of them are wearing fucking pentagrams, right? Like pentagrams. They've got tattoos of the devil and 666 and odd future, fuck you, kill them all this, you know, whatever. And it's like, all right, guys, like, what, like, free to be you and me, baby, free to be you and me. Like, you're allowed to do, and kids should be allowed to make choices that maybe they regret later, you know what I mean, or that they don't like. And it's like, it's just, the whole thing is a complete, it's absolutely a shell game, and it bothers me to see people falling for it, but this is 2023.
It's, you got to did the big culture war thing. They lost gay issues. Now gay people or gay marriage is broadly accepted, and they've broadly received their rights. So they have to move the microscope of or sort of like, it's like a narrowing iris. Like, okay, we've lost this group, so now the iris has to narrow to an even smaller and more politically powerless minority group who can't fight back. But because there is some tangential sexual element to their thing, we can get people up in a lather about it.
Yes, and that's always where it comes from, is almost the, like, people, like, the fact that there is just an equivalence. And I don't actually know, maybe this was a problem from the jump with like, I don't know enough about LGBT like history, but the fact that it's that the T is included with the LGB, even though transgenderism isn't, it's different.
It's not associated with sexuality at all.
And I think that's like part of the
I mean, that's not true. There's it all commingles in some strange way. But
I mean, the reason, from my understanding, that it's all included together is because the my light's flickering. I'm running out of fucking steam. I don't know what's going on. I think like trans people experienced similar like oppressive issues to gay people.
We were hanging out at the I mean, Stonewall famously was started by trans people. Trans people had to drag gay people, because the thing is, like, when you're a white gay passing guy, is like, you can pass. You don't necessarily have, you can fake it.
Right.
You know,
Right.
you can be accepted into these annals of power.
Yes.
So you were maybe a little more reticent to give that up because you could fake your way through it. And then you had people like Marsha Johnson, who was this, you know, black trans woman in the 60s.
Mm-hmm.
You know, she couldn't, there would be no option given to her. So, you know, she's the one that had to drag white gay people kicking and screaming into standing up for their rights.
Yeah.
And, you know, if it wasn't for trans people, gay people would not have their right. Like, we are joined at the hip in terms of our cultural battle because we are seen by the same way as the puritanical majority. There is something, you know, deviant or other about us. You know?
Right. And the problem is really is that, like, fucking all this like evangelical shit. Well, I don't know about evangelical, that's not the right word, but puritanical is the right word for it. It all comes down to sex, right?
Yeah.
It's all about, like, it's all about controlling the sexual impulses of a population, which is just like so fucking, the fact that people are still falling for it, like, to this day, it's like, holy shit, man. I mean, this is literally a tale as old as time, is like people being oppressed because, you know, women being oppressed, they're not allowed to do things with their sexuality.
Yeah, because there's some sort of deviant sex thing to them that must be controlled and maintained.
It's just about the no thing. You can't do this, you know what I mean? And then of course the conservatives love just lumping in that, you know, the pedophilia thing, that is, there's any equivalent.
Oh yeah, I mean, that was, they said that about gay people in the 80s and 90s. That's what they're always using, because
which is always, it's like, really, guys, you want to go there? You guys who are part of the Catholic Church,
neocons,
you really want to fucking go there?
Catholics, like, please, you guys want to talk about who is pedophiles and who's not pedophiles?
Let's please, if we're gonna keep it 100, let's fucking keep it 100. It's all just so silly to me. So I really hope that, like, you know, I really hope that there are trans people out there that are not spiraling or super depressed or worry that you know, things are only going to get worse for them, because I really do feel like this is a growing pain of being on the other side of this. Do you know what I mean? I don't know.
Well, I saw things get better for gay people in my life.
That's true.
Like, I definitely, like, even back from when I was a kid, I saw people go from murderously bullying gay people to not murderously bullying them.
Oh yeah, my dad he's a middle school teacher, and the stories that he tells me now about what his class looks like. I mean, there are kids that are, you know, non-binary or openly gay, or you know what I mean, or just, and everybody's just like, oh, cool. You know, you couldn't do that when I was in middle school.
Yeah, when I was a kid, if you were out in my school, it would be, you were a target, you know?
Yeah, literally.
People would do fucked up shit to you.
It's like a complete non-issue, and that's what makes me feel like, all right, the kids are all right, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Scary.
And, you know, but, you know, part of that too is because there's a lot more gay people. We are sort of able to get a lot more voting blocks in. You know, it is easier for us to marshal political power. I mean, which is, you know, I'll have someone else to talk on it, but, like, I think there's an episode coming up where I just hate on these people, but the LGBT without the T people, like the gay people that want to throw trans people under the bus, there is no type of person I hate more.
Oh no,
on
those
the
people
planet
need to be
euthanized.
Yeah,
they need to be.
Like, you need to be put down. That shit is ridiculous to me.
Yeah.
And like, but I know it's true also. I mean, like, it's funny. I have a bunch of friends that are like, well, he's Jewish, but white, right? White, gay male. Yeah. And he was kind of just talking about how it's funny being a white gay guy, because you are the straight person of the are the hetero of like the LGBT, and it's really easy to be made a target of, because you have it the easiest of anybody.
Yeah, objectively the easiest. Yeah, you can't complain about. Well, I'm even like I'm a white bisexual, which is like
yes, you can tap out at any time.
Yeah, anytime. Like, whoa, it's getting a little hazy in these red states. Exactly. I think I'll go straight for a little bit. You know,
like, look, you got fucking like Tim Cook, open gay man, and he's the CEO of possibly the most influential tech company on the planet. I mean,
you have Peter Thiel, the most evil gay man in the world, and he taught me that you can be extremely evil and get your blood exchanged and still be a proud gay man. But he was not really proud, actually.
I think part of also the beauty of, like, I'm not telling anybody to move to New York, especially when it looks like out there right now. But
Yeah.
is shit orange by you too, or is it just
No, it's just hazy.
okay, hazy? It's interesting, like especially living in New York and meeting. First of all, I went from having like 3 gay friends to having like too many gay friends.
Yeah, that's where they make them.
Like they started to outnumber you. Yeah, and
oh no, I'm in the minority
I'm
now.
In the minority.
I'm a heterosexual minority.
But I think part of like a really important like growing experience is especially being like exposed to. Oh my God, it really went out on me. My light just went out on me.
Fucking shit! Goddamn DeSantis! I blame DeSantis.
Oh, we're back.
And this whole Florida infrastructure is fucking up.
Part of the growth experience is also learning that there are a ton of gay people, trans people, people that are different than you that also suck, and not because, not because of who they are and because of their identity, but because of who they are as a person.
Yeah, like just their set of character traits which
is a very humanizing, right? That's also really humanizing. There's a ton of like gay people. There's even gay friends that I have that I'm also like, I would never go into business with this guy because he's a fucking nuisance, you know what I mean? But he's still like a friend of mine.
I mean, that's why I really like that show Difficult People, the Billy Eichner show Difficult People, because there's like not a ton of depictions of shitty gay people on TV. Yeah. Usually we're depicted as like angels, or like now a lot of the time we're depicted as like pure angels, which is sort of annoying.
Well, I think what was, I mean, it's not my place to say this at all, so sorry about this, but I thought, and actually we are kind of past this, but there was like a quick, like 5-year period where it was a big wave in Black representation in movies, which is great. I mean, also like look at the new Spider-Verse movie has like, I was watching that movie and I was feeling like, dude, there is literally going to be an entire generation of kids that are watching this movie and are going to have that like, oh my God, he's literally me.
I'm Spider-Man now.
Like literally, because I could see that, like I was like, holy shit, which is so awesome. You know what I mean? Yeah. And it's because that I don't think we've had a superhero like that, like a, and which is cool. But anyway,
but I mean, it's a genuine political issue because of how many people are like, Miles Morales isn't Spider-Man. It's like, who fucking cares?
No,
you
who
idiot.
Cares? No,
or like Magic the Gathering came out with Lord of the Rings card and they made Aragorn black, and it's like,
that. Oh my God, that shit was too funny.
People were up in arms about that. It's like, what do you get? It's fiction. You can be anything.
Yeah, it's just ridiculous. But here's the thing: is like during like when Black Panther came out, which was a huge, culturally significant moment. I saw that movie. I didn't see the most recent one, but I saw that movie and I was like, okay, it's not a bad movie. I mean, it's like, a Marvel movie.
It has bad politics, but who cares?
Yeah, but who cares? But also, I didn't really like Black Panther as this character, this sort of like Ubermensch, because he's a like flawless being. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like even Captain America has more discernible personality characteristics than T'Challa, who's like, he's noble, he's stoic,
Right, but
Killmonger is a lot more, has much more of a character in that movie, which is why he's 10 times more likable.
He's way more interesting, and I mean, I think that's also why even characters like Iron Man are a little bit more three-dimensional, because he's a hero, but he's also really arrogant.
He's a shitty alcoholic.
Exactly. And so like, I think it was during that, and there were other movies, not just like Black Panther, but even comedy movies or whatever that came out that portrayed the main Black character as sort of they would just be in a point, in a situation where they were surrounded by white people and all the white people were acting crazy, and the Black person had to have that like Jim Halpert look at camera moment, like, can you believe what I got to deal with? Like, I'm the only normal person here. And I kind of remember on like year 3 of that wave of movies that I was like, is this going to get tiresome at a certain point? Because don't you want like, of course, like you want Black representation, but there's so many talented Black actors. Can we get some writers writing interesting roles for Black people?
I mean, eventually you got that. Like there were shows that depicted Black people. I think I didn't watch it. I've heard many good things, but that show Insecure,
I never saw that one. Never
It's supposed to be very good, but that's sort of a show that depicts black people as being shitty and neurotic, just having regular human emotions.
Yeah,
and shit
humans,
like
right?
Yeah.
People, yeah. And now I think finally, I think we did actually kind of move past that.
Yeah, I think we're there now.
We're there now.
Yeah.
We've actually achieved like a really good point, I think. But
speaking on behalf of all black people,
yeah, right.
You've
Right.
made it. You've made it into movies.
As a Jew, the most underrepresented person in Hollywood. I would like to say no, but I think that because you were talking about gay people being kind of portrayed as like very
perfect
like,
angels,
perfect, right? Because
either we die or we're perfect angels.
Exactly. It's like that grows tiresome because those characters aren't interesting, you know what I mean? And I think it's good to have people playing characters that are representing but they're three-dimensional, you know what I mean? That's what it should be, because people deserve to have
people deserve the gamut of heroes and villains. I mean, that's why I also really love The Terror, because it has a great gay villain in it.
Oh, I haven't seen that one either.
I mean, that series where they all get
in the ice.
Yeah, it's when they're stuck in the ice. Yeah,
telling me about that. I heard it was good.
It's really, really good. But that's the other weird thing about gay culture, because for a long time before we had big representation, all the queer coded people were villains. All of the Disney villains were,
Scar.
Ursula or Hook or Scar. They're all these fey, lisping, limp wristed, and But I think there was something to like gay people love being depicted. The gay people love being villains. It's fun to be a villain, it's fun to be evil. It's a little gay and flamboyant to be evil,
I saw somebody, this was a tweet that was like kind of trending recently, that somebody was saying, they were saying like in a horror movie, the villain or the monster is only effective if it's also a little silly. Like if you go like too much like, oh, this guy's super cool, you like lose something. It has to be a little bit silly, and I think that's very real. Like all of my favorite villains in movies have that a little bit of that, just like
more gay villains. We need bring back gay villains.
Like, dude, Soft America destroyed another amazing
another institution. The gay villain completely gone because these kids today, these Zoomers,
they can't handle it.
They're all bussing. They're
all. Oh my god! Right before we started recording, we were looking at that Wikipedia page.
Yeah, the Wikipedia list of Zoomer catchphrases, Zoomer phrases, which
I actually knew almost all of them.
Yeah,
it was just bang 30s was the only one.
Bang 30. Yeah, we're gonna bang 30s. Yeah, I didn't know that, but I knew Bet. I knew Rent Free, live in someone's head rent free.
Yeah, I knew all of that. I Oop was on there. That's so funny. And I Oop. I love that one. Oh god.
Anyway, Harris, it's been lovely to have you on the show. Thank you. What are your plugs? Give us your plugs,
dude. I'm at Beetle Moses all over the world. I'm on Instagram, Twitter, youtube.com/@BeetleMoses. I have my VODs of my art class, which I host on Twitch if you like once a week. If you want to learn how to just do some silly cartoons, I can show you the one that we just did yesterday.
Hell yeah. What's the one that you did yesterday?
Oh my god, if my light will stay on for that. We drew Shrimpy Menage.
It's a shrimp with a big ass who's twerking.
So we draw like silly cartoons on there and talk about art and think like a lot of what kind of you and I were just talking about.
Yeah,
that's on Twitch, also Beetle Moses. And then, as some of you know, we have a bunch of House of Decline episodes on Cold Cuts Podcast, which is youtube.com/coldcutspod, and it's also available on Spotify. Cold Cuts Podcast. I think we've recorded like 4 or 5 episodes.
Yeah, a lot of episodes. I'm the unofficial third mic of Cold Cuts.
Seriously though, so that's pretty much all my plugs, I think.
All right, well, we love the comics. Keep making them. I really also love your nature comics. There are a bunch of like nature stuff, like False Knees is doing like a lot of great stuff in the nature comics thing. I love your nature jokes are some of my favorites of yours. I'm really glad to see you pivot into those.
Yeah, those are funny because I think animals are just funny, and I think there's something I think. Well, I know we're about to close, but like something to
leave us off with your animal observation.
I think it's interesting, especially a lot of webcomics from one era ago really leaned into the blobby person, right? The drawing, right? Like that I think is like the classic webcomic that people picture now is
that all comes from Perry Bible Fellowship.
I think that's real. Like all of the featureless drawings, right? And which is cool, and I still appreciate a lot of
I do that shit. I mean, that's my style for sure.
You do, but you're almost like what's the word for you're like post
blob. I'm
like
post blob.
Man, yeah. Like I think yours is like the logical evolution of that. Yeah. But what I've found is that I like drawing things sometimes in excruciating detail, like a bit more than they need to be. And especially I have found that I think some of the comics that I draw, where I draw an animal truly as it is, not silly in any way, but if I draw a bug, it looks like a bug. If I draw a shrimp, it looks like a shrimp. Like just nothing silly about it. But there's something that it's doing that's human in nature. I think it achieves that same effect where people are able to kind of project their own feelings onto this featureless bug. Anybody, man, woman, like any race, anybody can be a shrimp. If
we've all felt like a shrimp at one point.
Resonates with you. So anyway, something to leave you with.
Yeah, we're all shrimp. Who fried this rice? Us.
Yeah, literally us together. Yeah, exactly. Dude, thank you so much for having me, man. This was really fun.
Take care and have a bright tomorrow.
You too, my brother.
Bye.
Bye.